There are so many reasons why I'm running for office and why I plan on to continuing to run for office as long as I possibly can, as long as I physically can. Um, Obviously, free speech is a big one. We know that New Jersey is coming up with laws trying to redefine anti-Semitism as any criticism of Israel is going to be considered anti-Semitic. Housing, healthcare, food insecurities, things like that are obviously big things. Other reasons which get pushed under the rug or a lot of people don't know about, because I've studied criminal justice. So my degree was in law and justice, which is, I consider pre-law and criminal justice. They combine the two together. I'm a big true crime fan and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of videos, and I know, yes, a lot of them are dramatized accounts. However, a lot of these accounts do end up being true. Yes, they add little things here and there, but they're not at all that far from exactly what's happening. One of my things that I want to do and why I'm in software engineering right now is to help stop human trafficking. I want to stop human trafficking on all fronts, everything like that. That's the other reason why I want to continue my master's into Indigenous people's law, because I know they have a big thing with murdered and missing Indigenous women and how that keeps getting pushed under the rug. But another thing I really want to bring up, and I'm so glad this came across my Facebook.
By the time they got me to the hospital, I had over 2.5 liters of fluid in my bladder. My name is Marie, and the troubled teen industry literally killed my bladder. I'm a survivor of the troubled teen industry. I got out on June 26, 2019, and although it is almost 5 years later, I am still having issues to this day. TTI, or troubled teen industry, refers to unregulated and abusive treatment centers that parents will send their...
And I knew about these things, but I never knew how in-depth these things are. There is a movie about a girl who had got sent to one of these. It was granted, again, this is a dramatized video. However, it is based on true events. And after doing a lot of research, I realized just how bad these things really are. When you sit there and say, I'm going to threaten to send you to boot camp, or I'm going to send you one of these camps and things like that, you don't realize exactly what you're getting your children into. So the movie, I forgot the name of it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the name of the movie is literally called Boot Camp. And essentially what it is this girl gets taken from her house by these guys who her parents signed over her custody to. She gets taken out of the country to a whole remote, I forgot what area it was in, but a whole area outside of the country. This place had already had, as you find out and watch, sorry, spoilers to anybody who's going to plan on watching it. So if you don't want spoilers, stop right now. But either way, they take her out of the country. They find out that this camp had actually been inside of the United States a couple of times already, and had already a couple of deaths of these kids on their record, which is why they moved out of the country. So she gets sent to this thing. First, they chain them up to a block in the middle of the ocean and just allow high tide to come up to them. They do that overnight. Then they stick them in with like the cuffs that they do. And essentially, it's just a movie of the girl's boyfriend trying to get her back and them escape. But it brings up a lot of things. It talks about SA, because that happens in a lot of these unregulated boot camps. SA, abuse, just like that girl said, she didn't specify SA, but she talked about the abuse. Happens a lot in these types of boot camps. The troubled teen industry is such an issue. And I get that sometimes it's a joke. It's like, oh, if you keep acting up, I'm going to send you to boot camp, ha ha ha. But then don't realize, if they actually did that, everything that happens in these boot camps, because a lot of these are actually unregulated. There are pretty much next to no regulated boot camps when it comes to the troubled teen industry. So, and that's coming from my research, and I haven't done a lot of digging like that, but from what I found, there's not a whole lot of regulation when it comes to these. So they're allowed to kind of run rampant. The deaths, the abuse, the sexual assaults. Yes, yes, I said the whole words of it. That happened when it comes to these things, whether it's the kids or the adults. It happens on both fronts when it comes to both sides, the children and the adults. Because the adults abuse the other adults. They're in a hostile environment, and now the adults are dropping it down to the children. So if you get the chance to, even if it's just the dramatized version movie, go watch Boot Camp. That will open your eyes, and then go do some digging into these. This is the other thing that needs to be addressed in this country. These unregulated boot camps. It's not okay. This is also another way that can lead into human trafficking, because kids have been kidnapped from these because there's no regulations. And then with all the in some of these things, it essentially turns into human trafficking, which a lot of people also don't realize. Human trafficking is not just SA. Human trafficking also consists of labor, and usually unpaid labor, and not just unpaid labor, but like things like a servant. Like, I mean, a lot of these videos are a little, that they show you, but because they're only brief. But like, one of the things that I've learned, because I worked security and I did their human trafficking things, and I volunteer with my state's human trafficking, anti-human trafficking coalition. The videos that they do with a lot of these certificates and stuff, and I'm sorry my phone keeps going off, they show scenarios like, one was this little girl who was taken in by this family and was doing all this stuff for the house and everything like that, and it was just getting treated with nothing but abuse, which we can see a lot in actually the foster family situations. And people don't understand that, like, foster kids are used for human trafficking, because people pick up these kids and foster them just so they can be abused and treated like dirt and kept around the house to essentially be a real life Cinderella. And I am only using that term because we all know how she was treated. Cinderella was essentially a version of human trafficking because of how she was being treated, on top of her being the one doing all of the work around the house, all of the labor, all of the chores and everything like that. That is considered human trafficking. Human trafficking, again, is not just SA. But these unregulated things, these kids can go miss. There's kids that have been going missing. Like I said, they have been unalived at these situations because of just the absolute abuse. The movie I talked about, there was a kid that drowned in it because they were made to paddle laps, and this one kid doesn't know how to swim. And they still made him go out there in the ocean and swim laps. And he eventually got stuck out there one day and drowned. And mind you, drowning is silent. Drowning is a silent death. You don't see the movies, oh, no. It doesn't happen like that. So, and again, like I said, that in that movie, you find out they already had like 2 deaths on their record already, which is why they skipped out of the country and went to a completely different country. So, it's insane. And this is an industry that needs to be governed and needs to be taken care of, because it's absolutely outright unacceptable. And that's putting it lightly. And I'll drop the link so you can see the full version of that video, that reel on Facebook. But these are the things that I want to try to, I know it seems like I'm trying to do everything, but this is what we need to do. We need to focus on essentially everything.